What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Everybody get in, hit the like button. Let everybody know that we're here. We're getting the live going. Thanks for joining in. If you guys have not seen my article on legalaffairsandtrials.com, you guys might want to check that out. I'll put it in the chat for people who need the link. But thanks for joining in, guys. I know there's a lot going on around the holidays, and there's a lot of news going on too. There's a lot of different cases, a lot of stuff to follow. Kind of a busy December for sure. But here, let me put it in the chat for you guys. This is the story I just did on my Substack, which you guys should subscribe to if you haven't. Amber Blue, you say you're new here. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. This channel, some of you, a lot of you probably know the channel maybe from the YSL trial, because I was posting so many clips from the YSL trial. It was kind of a full-time job, but now that the trial's over, I've got a lot more time to do other things on the channel, so I'm looking forward to it. Here comes Drama. I love the name. Thank you so much for your support always and your membership. And Trakisha McNeil, hello. Thanks so much. And Attorney, oh, we've got a lawyer in the chat. Attorney Simone, girl, is that legal? With all the YSLers, of course, seeing Attorney Simone makes me think of Simone Hilton, but she spells it with an I remember. Amber Blue, thank you so much. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is the beginning of a big 2025. Next year is going to be a big year for the channel. I'm going to be doing a lot more things, hoping to do more for like a home studio where I can do more lives, get more interviews going, and chat with everybody. But if you guys have not seen the story, this is what we're going to talk about today. It's the lawsuit that Megan Thee Stallion had filed against Milagro. She goes by Grams on YouTube and social media, but Milagro Cooper. And Megan Pete versus Milagro Cooper would be the lawsuit. But this was originally filed back in October. And I mean, I covered it on social media then, but there was so much going on with the YSL trial and everything that I hadn't done like a big story on it or anything. But it's an interesting case, especially in this day and age with, social media. So, I mean, that's where everybody's getting their news. And it does have, like, it reminds me of the Tasha K, Cardi B lawsuit a little bit. We're seeing celebrities kind of fight back more and more against online discourse like that. Wow, 5 memberships. Thank you. Here comes Drama. I need to really get into my YouTube and figure out exactly how to promote all the memberships and everything and get everything up to speed, and we'll really get going here. Shelly, yes, the Higher Learning Pod. I was so stoked when Rachel and Van reached out. They were one of the first people that I talked to, I remember, after the Tory Lanez verdict, and I didn't really realize all the attention I was getting. I mean, I had never really dealt with all that attention before, but they were the first podcast interview I did. So their producer reached out. I think it was Sunday night when the Jay-Z lawsuit news broke, and wanted to get on there. So I was stoked to talk to them. That one really took everyone by storm. Thank you. Came for YSL, staying for you, fellow attorney from Boston. Boston, go Celtics. I don't know if you're a basketball fan, but I'm a Peyton Pritchard fan because he's an Oregon grad, native Oregonian, and he is having an absolutely banner year. Proud of him. But thank you for saying hi, everyone. Let everyone know where you're from if you can. We're from all around the country. I'm here in Los Angeles, of course. I appreciate the nickname. I did have to plug my merchandise on Twitter today, and I've got to get a couple orders out today, but I moved up to LA in May, so I've kind of just been dealing with the transition on that. But I've got that merch line. If you guys know about my googly-eyed bitch merch line here, it's meganthereporter.com, but I've still got some shirts. I've got some mugs, sweatshirts, stickers, and everything, just in time for the holiday season. You can get your Christmas shopping in. Texas and Detroit, mixed chick. Detroit, Texas. Mixed Chick, thank you. And I saw you became a member. That's so awesome. I'm stoked. Kelly Grant, Corvallis, the hometown, Corvallis. That's got to be Corvallis, right? I think that's my brother Aaron's friend. So yes, everybody get your merch orders in. And now that I'm not so busy with the YSL trial all the time, I've got to figure out how to get my merch totally connected to YouTube and everything. It has something to do with the photos. You have to have like professional photos, professional grade photos, all that stuff. But got the tweet here promoting it. But the article, and I have not heard the calls, and I want to hear the calls. If anyone's listening to this and has these calls, can send them to me or something. Please do. But because some people are pointing out, I mean, it's a good point. You have to kind of, I want to hear the context of how they're actually saying this. But I think just the fact that they're talking about Milagro so much is, and obviously the attorneys think that the tone in which Tory supposedly said, they're never going to be able to prove that we paid Milagro, implies that he did pay her. And I know a lot of people are looking at that quote, or some people in his camp are looking at that quote and saying, oh, there's no there. But I mean, the lawyers amended their complaint. The original complaint against Milagro, it didn't have the defamation claim. It was cyber stalking. And it had, the main claim is the promotion of an altered sexual depiction. And the new amended complaint adds the defamation claim and then also cites the phone calls. And the phone calls, because just on its face, I mean, it's not like illegal for Lanez to give her money, but it's supporting the claim of intentional infliction of emotional distress, because they're saying that she's working directly with Megan's assailant to keep spreading misinformation, and that this link between Lanez through the jail calls is like further evidence to support their intentional infliction of emotional distress. That seemed to be my reading of it from the okay. So my understanding is I don't know if prison phone calls are subject to state like California prison calls. I'm not sure if you can just get those through a state records request. I mean, if they were, there would just be, you would hear Suge Knight's jail calls all the time, because my understanding is they got these through like a subpoena to the California Department of Corrections, which is how that would happen. But I don't think a member of the public can just file a records request. I mean, you could, but it would get rejected. But I don't think they just hand, like, you can't just randomly tell the Department of Corrections, I want to hear all the jail calls for this inmate for this period. Like, I don't think those are public like that, but they are for a court subpoena. But thanks everyone for saying hi. South Carolina in the building. We've got Lakia. Thanks for saying hey. Larissa, I want to hear the phone calls too. Baltimore. Got an uncle who used to practice law in Baltimore. He's pretty much retired now, but Ken, thank you. Dallas, Texas. In Toronto, we got international here. Detroit, Texas again. Thank you guys. Charleston, South Carolina. I hear that's a great place. Florida does have extremely liberal open records laws, so you probably can in Florida. Pittsburgh. I had a friend who worked at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette for a number of years. Never made it to Pittsburgh myself, but I also worked with a couple of photographers at the Spokesman Review who worked in Pittsburgh for a long time. Big Steelers fans. Georgia and the UK. That's great. Colombia. Need to get over there. I might be going to Atlanta if the Ducks play in the national championship, the college football national championship. But regarding the article, you guys should bring it up here on legalaffairsandtrials.com. And this was filed Tuesday night. I got the article out yesterday. but she had filed her original complaint in October, and Milagro's lawyers had filed a motion to dismiss. So I know a lot of people saw yesterday that the judge rejected the motion to dismiss, and which she did. But it was basically it was just because the motion was moot, because the motion to dismiss was based on the original pleading, and the amended complaint filed moots the original pleading. So she can definitely still file a dismissal motion. She just has to, the lawyers just have to write it in accordance to the new filing, not the old one. So I would expect to see that, but filed maybe in like a couple weeks. But I definitely think the claim of promotion of an altered sexual depiction would survive anything like that for sure, because it's a new law in Florida, but I mean, it's pretty explicit text that it makes it a crime and then also punishable by civil penalties for anyone to promote a sexual depiction of someone, of an identifiable person that's been altered. And it specifies in there that you don't have to just be the person who made the image. It has, you can, if you just promote it or draw attention to it, you can be punished for that. So, and I know I saw some people when I brought that law up originally questioning the constitutionality of just the law in general. But the Florida legislature just passed it in the last legislative session, 2024. So supposedly the legislature is supposed to consider stuff like that. But I think in this day and age, if somebody told them that law was unconstitutional, it might just embolden them to pass it more. But who knows? Maybe this case could become like a real litmus test for that law. But I think just under that claim, and just based on the evidence they have of that, that's definitely going to go forward. But the defamation stuff and the false statement stuff, because we'll get into the lawsuit, but a lot of the stuff that she says is worded like as a question, and they point to her saying like Megan's an alcoholic, and her saying that she needs a guardian and has like a diminished mental capacity. It'll be interesting to see how those shape up in court, because her being a celebrity and some of those things like that she's an alcoholic, well, that's like a clinical diagnosis. It's also just a statement that people say about a lot of people all the time. It's just kind of like an insult that people use. So I think some of it could be, it's not quite the Tasha K Cardi B case of, I remember if you actually look in the court file for the Tasha K Cardi B case, there's a line in there where the court authorized an STD test for Cardi to basically prove that she doesn't have herpes, because like it's just a factual statement one way or the other. So I think the judge is going to have to look at these statements. Someone's an alcoholic. Is that a factual statement, or is it just kind of like an opinion alcoholic thing, or opinion insult kind of thing? But like I said, the one claim that seems definitely like it's not gonna be dismissed outright, no way, is the promotion of an altered sexual depiction. But so this is the beginning of the article. They say he's running a harassment campaign from prison, and so they're suing the woman they believe has been paid to spread misinformation online. And the phone calls, and I didn't see any reference to actual phone calls with Milagro, but it's them. They're talking about her a lot in there, and they say that it shows that Cooper is still his mouthpiece. And I caution people that I don't think they've included everything that they have in here. They reference a little bit, but just the fact that they amended their complaint and are including citations to these phone calls shows that I think the lawyers think they have something. And to me, when you read the quotes, a lot of it would just kind of depend on the tone in which it's said. So the lawyers have heard these calls, not us. And obviously they think there's something there, but like I said, you can't really judge totally until you hear them yourselves. But it says in one phone call, the Petersons confidently asserted that Miss Pete would be unable to prove that Mr. Peterson paid Defendant for attacking Miss Pete. So I think some people in his camp are pointing to that and saying, oh, well, there's just no evidence at all that he's saying that because it's not true. He didn't pay her anything. So they're not going to be able to find anything because it's not true. But I think the lawyers, when they heard that, think that it's him acknowledging that they did pay her, but that there's just no way that anyone's going to be able to prove that. Like I said, it's unless you actually hear it yourself. But I think the lawyers think that it certainly means one thing. I mean, just all the misinformation around this case is interesting. Now, I saw somebody asking about Dirk. And I don't know, that wouldn't surprise me if there was a superseding indictment, but I have not seen anything like that. The U.S. Attorney's Office would probably issue a press release. He should be in court soon, like next week. There's supposed to be a status conference on, notice of brief filed by plaintiff, seeking detention. Oh, yeah, it's his lawyers seeking. Or they just filed it. I don't think it's another charge, but his lawyers just filed a brief. USA filed a brief trying to keep him in custody. Something's going on, but I'll have to look into that one later. Mob radio, and that's the thing. In the end, this is a real lawsuit. I mean, the internet is just so silly, and the people who just live on it and are chronically online. I mean, I say that as we're all online talking to each other, but it's just like she's taking everyone else down with her. It's like, okay. If Dirk was hit with another murder for hire charge, there's nothing filed in the Los Angeles federal case where he's. It's the original indictment, the indictment that they indicted him on, a couple weeks ago. They've still got all those charges in there. There hasn't been anything superseding over that. The stuff that was filed today is something regarding his detention. That's another case. But yeah, like I said, if anyone has these calls or has access to these calls and can send them to me, that'd be great, because we should all just listen to them ourselves. But because remember, this is not the only thing that they have. They've got these calls, but then they also have Milagro talking about how, the family's taking care of her, that kind of thing. It kind of implies that there is some kind of financial relationship there. And remember, it's not like it's illegal for Lanez to give her money. It's just Megan's lawyers think that it's evidence in support for their claim of intentional infliction of emotional distress, because they're saying that here she is knowingly working with the guy who shot her. And they also bring up the fact that she was in court for Megan's testimony when Megan testified about how the online harassment is so traumatizing to her. So they were saying, it's just further sign that she should know all this stuff. So the complaint adds a defamation claim against, in the case against Cooper, but here we'll go. Yeah, this is her photo with she and Tory Lanez's dad. It says, while defendant's social media posts celebrating the Petersons portray merely an innocent and supportive relationship, defendant also has a financial incentive to act as a paid surrogate to spread defamatory statements about Miss Pete, while Mr. Peterson serves a 10-year prison sentence. In an October 29th, 2024 live stream posted to her social media accounts, defendant implied that she is, quote, still on Mr. Peterson's payroll. This is consistent with statements made by defendant's former best friend, King Noir, who exposed defendant for working alongside Mr. Peterson to smear Miss Pete's reputation. King Noir stated that defendant talks to Tory's daddy as an effort to leak information to the press that comes from Mr. Peterson himself. Moreover, as Mr. Peterson's prison call logs demonstrate, Mr. Peterson has repeatedly discussed defendant with his father. In one phone call, the Petersons confidently asserted that Miss Pete would be unable to prove that Mr. Peterson paid defendant for attacking Miss Pete. And then this is my summary here. It says the complaint added a defamation claim to the case against Cooper, a Houston, Texas resident known as Milagro Grams, who hosts a podcast on YouTube and Stationhead called Mob Radio. It includes the original claims of promotion of an altered sexual depiction, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and cyberstalking. Pete also signed a petition for an injunction to prohibit Cooper from, quote, committing any acts of stalking and providing any terms of the and providing any terms the court deemed necessary for protection of a victim of stalking, including possible law enforcement involvement. And then this is the petition right here. I don't know if it's too small for you guys to read, but Morphine, thanks for saying thanks. I appreciate it. What advice would I give Mob Radio? I mean, I think she's made the right decision by getting a lawyer. It is kind of funny that she's got the lawyer that is representing Tory in his appeal. I mean, just the optics of that doesn't really help her case. But they found a local counsel in Florida, and he already went at it with his dismissal motion, which, like I said, that got rejected. But it was only because they filed a new complaint. Like they'll be able to file another dismissal motion that'll get ruled on its merits. Although, like I said, I think that the one claim that's would definitely survive that is the promotion of an altered sexual depiction. Yeah, I have terrible vision too. Here comes drama. I need to. Now that I have more time during the day and I'm not just married to the YSL trial clips, I'm going to try to get some more programs in here for my live streams that I can kind of promote. Stuff to get stuff on screen a little bit better. But here's Megan's signature. Seeking an injunction immediately restraining respondent from committing any acts of stalking. We'll see if that I'm not sure, because I mean there's nothing in the complaint about Milagro like actually stalking her in person. Like, I mean, obviously the claim is cyber stalking, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Like if there's anything that actually gets done in court about that. Because I mean, I don't, it seems like, I mean, can they just prohibit her from just talking about her in general? It doesn't seem like it. But we did see the settlement in Nicki Minaj's lawsuit against the blogger Nosy Ho. And that is similar to this in that that was a serious lawsuit that I think was always just in mediation and settlement. And the settlement was she had to like apologize, and she can't mention, I think, Kenneth Petty. She can't talk about him. And she had to issue a statement acknowledging that like she had no basis for saying Nicki Minaj is like a cocaine addict or something. And if she violates any of the terms of the settlement, she is going to have to pay $50,000. So that is the kind of settlement. I mean, that lawsuit is kind of similar to this for sure. So, and we're kind of entering like the new age of these defamation lawsuits against YouTubers and bloggers like that. So we could see something like this. I mean, I wouldn't ever expect this to, maybe it will go to trial, but I wouldn't ever expect there to be like some huge settlement like that. Like if there is some kind of resolution, it would be something like that. But so the amended complaint moots a dismissal motion that Cooper's lawyers filed on November 26th. So U.S. District Court Judge Cecilia Altonaga, she's the chief judge in the Southern District of Florida, she denied the motion on Wednesday. But as I said, Cooper's lawyers can seek dismissal again based on the new complaint. So the original motion said Pete failed to state a claim against Cooper and said her lawsuit is an attempt to intimidate and silence Cooper from exercising his First Amendment rights. It also said the lawsuit aims to, quote, serve as a warning to other critics that if plaintiff does not like what you say about her, you will likely have to deal with the federal lawsuit. It did not at all address the claim of promotion of an altered sexual depiction, which, like I said, that's based on a pretty brand new Florida law. And when you just read the law and then read the evidence that they have, or Milagro's own posts and writing about this sexual depiction that she promoted that was altered, it seems pretty cut and dry that it's just a matter of, on a bigger scale, is that law going to pass muster constitutionality wise? But like I said, the Florida legislature is supposed to be thinking about that stuff before they enact stuff and the governor signs it, but we'll see. First filed on October 30th, the lawsuit alleges Cooper coordinated with Lanez's attorneys, including by obtaining DNA information before it was disclosed in court. And they bring up academics too. The lawsuit calls him by his legal name, Livingston Allen, then falsely telling her followers that Lanez's DNA was not found on the firearm. In reality, the DNA results from the firearm were inconclusive, meaning that Mr. Peterson cannot be excluded or included as one of the possible contributors of the mixed genetic material. When I read that, I'm not sure. I mean, I think they're just using it as one example, but just to have a blogger, if the DNA information is that it was inconclusive, and to have a blogger then take that and turn around and say, oh, his DNA wasn't found on the gun, I'm not sure if a judge would find that as like evidence of just maliciousness, other than just someone kind of not completely understanding what a court finding was. Like, I think they would actually find that like kind of common. Like, I'm not sure if that rises to the level of like actionable defamation, but they're using it as one example and a bunch of things. Like I said, when you look back at Cardi B's lawsuit against Tasha K, I mean, one of the big deals was that Tasha K was like repeatedly saying that she had an STD. And like I said, if you go back and look in the court file, there's actually, the judge actually authorized an STD test to be taken in the case, because that is just like a factual statement one way or the other, you know. But some of this stuff gets into, is it how black and white is it, you know? It says the lawsuit also accuses Cooper of working with Lanez and his father to employ automated social media robot or bot accounts to attack Miss Pete and her supporters with hateful, derogatory, and malicious statements on social media. It says Cooper knew or should have known that false information about the case can cause Pete severe distress, because Cooper was in the courtroom when Pete testified in Lanez's trial about the harm she suffered from online harassment. Overall, like they definitely took the complaint that was originally filed and really beefed it up with a bunch more stuff. I mean, the intentional infliction of emotional distress claim, that the connection they're making between her and Lane seems, you know, I mean, I could see that surviving a dismissal motion for failure to state a claim, but we'll see. We'll see what the judge thinks. They are right in that this is like kind of new territory of the law. But oh god, yeah, the bots are busy. You're right, and I'm getting. I mean, just with the Tony Busby, Jay-Z stuff. I mean, good god, guys, it's freaking Christmas time, and they're shoving all this stuff down our throats. Like, you know, I think the general mass public is hopefully starting to rebel against the bots and the you know, automated stuff. But Lakia, you are right. Hit the like button. Hit the like button all you can. Hit the like button all you can. There's so much going on. I got to get into the little Dirk case too, because they do have a motion for detention in on him. Yeah, the time and money it costs to settle going to hearings, especially with it being in Florida. Although they do have local Florida counsel. And, you know, so far they've only had one hearing, and it was like 5 minutes. They might have done it online too, or over the phone or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, subscribe. Give me a like. The bots. Mixed chick, it's so interesting because sometimes when you look at them, they're just obviously bots. You know, it's like some weird name, no picture, no real anything. The account just started, you know, this month, and it has like 4 followers or something. But there's also accounts, and I noticed this during like the height of the Lane stuff, is that you'll see accounts that look like people. They just look like music fans, and the accounts have been around for a long time, but they'll start tweeting the same thing. All the accounts are tweeting the same thing. It's definitely bots controlled by like some social media organization or some PR company or something. And a lot of the people who latch on to what they're tweeting are real people. But the people who are like starting this and like spreading it, I mean, you'll see it Sunday night with the Jay-Z stuff. Like the second that news hit, there were all these threads on Twitter. There you could see the same thread about Jay-Z reposted like 6 times on all these different accounts. And it's like, this is absolutely a coordinated attempt. You know, all the people who are consuming it and retweeting it are real. Maybe not all of them, but you know, that's real. But how it starts is totally manufactured. Just Dirk just became a part of the state case. Oh, interesting. I think I bet the federal case will still trump that, or they'll try to have the federal case trump that, but we'll see. As far as I know, Dirk is in Los Angeles federal custody. He got here like a couple weeks ago. Everybody kind of missed his arraignment, but anyway. So we've got some background here. Hereford sentenced him in August 2023. Prosecutor cited his campaign of misinformation against Pete, and Hereford agreed it should factor into the prison sentence. He's currently at the California Correctional Institute in 100 miles north of LA. First parole hearing in September 2029. That's when he's eligible. Doesn't mean he's going to get a hearing. And just based on some of this stuff, I mean, it doesn't sound like he's. I know the parole board is looking for rehabilitation, remorse. It's 4 hours from now. But Takesha, I'm so glad you're a member now. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to 2025 on this channel, especially with Dirk and everything. We've got so much to talk about here, and ASAP Rocky's trial coming up. We've got a bunch of different stuff. The Diddy case, that's not going to die down anytime soon. I don't know if you guys saw that he gets his laptop, access to a laptop, which I've seen in other cases too, in the MDC, the Metropolitan Detention Center, where they've actually had to go get a court order, the lawyers have, so their clients can get a laptop to access discovery material. And I think the idea that he's going to be able to access the internet, I definitely don't think so. I think they'll disable the laptop enough that he's only looking at, Word documents or whatever he's doing. But he's supposed to have access, what were the hours? Like 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's 7 days a week, 3:30 p.m. So that was a win for him. But, I mean, really, that's just kind of basic stuff that you would expect. Because, I mean, there is absolutely something to his argument that it's pretty shitty to have to prepare for trial when you're in jail. But, so, anyway. And then this gets into back to Megan's lawsuit against Milagro. Because, like I said, on its face, it's not illegal for Lanez to be giving Milagro money. He can give money to whoever he wants to. But the lawyers are using it in here as a sign, as evidence to bolster their claim of intentional infliction of emotional distress, saying that here she is working here's Milagro working with Megan's assailant to keep spreading misinformation. Although they don't give us a lot of examples. I mean, we have the two quotes. The only time in this 42-page filing that the prison calls are mentioned is when they talk about the dad and Tory talking about how they're not going to be able to prove that he paid her. And like I said, you'd have to kind of hear the tone on that. But that also doesn't mean that they don't have anything else in here. I mean, if they're getting his prison calls, it might take a while to actually listen through all that stuff. I mean, they could have more stuff. There's no guarantee. But I think the fact that they filed an amended complaint and included this all stuff in there, shows that they think it's pretty solid in their favor. But it says, by consciously coordinating with Miss Pete's convicted assaulter to amplify Mr. Peterson's disproven and baseless theories to help him seek retribution against Miss Pete, defendants engaged in extreme and outrageous conduct that has caused and continues to cause Miss Pete severe emotional distress. And then they list all the reasons that they think she acted with actual malice and or reckless disregard for the truth. Defendant continued to accuse Miss Pete of having lied under oath about whether Mr. Peterson shot her after a unanimous jury convicted Mr. Peterson beyond a reasonable doubt of committing felony assault against Miss Pete, and with full knowledge of the jury's guilty verdict. I think, and this is where it gets into, there was a difference with Tasha K's lawsuit from Cardi B. Tasha K was saying she has STDs when it's proven by a test that she doesn't, and I mean, as much as some people might not like it, I think Milagro has a right to say that, Tory's innocent and that she thinks Megan lied. It's the promotion of an altered sexual depiction claim, like I said, that I think is really problematic here. And then maybe when she's making statements about how she's mentally incapacitated or needs a guardian, I mean, maybe that gets into that as just a factually inaccurate statement. But I mean, the whole idea that if a jury convicts someone, you're not allowed to say that that person is actually innocent. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, I don't think that's quite what they're arguing. They're using that as another example of something. But like I said, I mean, whether they like it or not, I think Milagro has a right to say that Megan is lying and Tory is innocent. It's just there's a little more to the case than that. But defendant pursued and published preconceived, false, and disproven narratives, such as Miss Pete did not suffer a gunshot wound. And that's the kind of thing that's just like a factual, inaccurate statement, you know, saying that somebody has STDs, saying that somebody did not get shot when they did, you know, that kind of stuff. It says Mr. Peterson did not shoot Miss Pete, and the firearm at issue was lost or misplaced by the Los Angeles Police Department as part of a campaign of misinformation and harassment against Miss Pete, which demonstrates deep-seated ill will and resentment. Indeed, the Los Angeles Times noted that defendant, quote, showed no remorse for pushing the Megan might have stepped on glass theory long after a surgeon had found bullet fragments in her foot. Says defendant promoted her false and defamatory statements due to her conspiratorial relationship with the Petersons, wherein she acts as a paid mouthpiece to spread misinformation on behalf of Mr. Peterson, while he serves his 10-year prison sentence for criminally assaulting Miss Pete. Indeed, defendant implied that she is, quote, still on Mr. Peterson's payroll and maintains regular contact with Mr. Peterson's father and lawyers. The Petersons also stated that Miss Pete would be unable to prove that they are paying defendant for her service. Defendant pushed and reiterated the false and defamatory statements out of a desire to gain notoriety, generate revenues and profits for herself, and hurt Miss Pete emotionally and professionally. Indeed, defendant's social media following has grown exceptionally since she began a campaign of harassment to defame Miss Pete, topping over 100,000 followers across her social media accounts. Defendant's attacks on Miss Pete's purported mental competency and alcoholism issues are so far removed from reality that they are inherently improbable, baseless, and devoid of facts, such that they are malicious and intended solely to impugn Miss Pete's personal and professional reputations. Defendant demonstrated extreme ill will against Miss Pete and intended to cause her emotional, mental, and reputational harm. Defendant's former best friend stated that defendant has a disdain for Megan, which defendant exhibited in her defamatory statements against Miss Pete. So there you go. I think the defamation stuff is, I don't know. It's going to be interesting how a judge takes some of that stuff, because, I mean, especially saying that somebody's an alcoholic. And alcoholism is, you know, a clinical diagnosis. It's also an opinion, and if you know if you see photos of someone drinking and you say that person's an alcoholic, it's like, are you just stating an opinion? I mean, I think a judge might say that, you know, that I don't know. I'm not sure about that one. It seems like the strongest claim, and the one that this case is really anchored on, is the promotion of a altered sexual depiction. And here we go, getting into that. It's based on a new law the Florida legislature passed this year that imposes civil and criminal penalties on people who willfully and maliciously promote a sexual depiction of an identifiable person that has been altered. In June, Cooper liked a post on X that included a video Megan made that included a video of Megan made with artificial intelligence. She then posted, "Go to my likes," which the lawsuit says she intended, quote, for this statement to encourage her followers and other members of the public to watch the deepfake video, which had been added to her likes page around the same time. Yeah, and she kind of keeps doing stuff throughout the day that's like, okay, maybe if you just liked it, I don't know if there would be any kind of case here, but it says Cooper also told her station head followers in a live stream to visit her likes on X. She also said, if you all want to be mad at something, this is what I'll give you. Be mad that I drew attention to it. The fact that she actually said that. The next day, Cooper said on YouTube that she, quote, told whoever follows me on social media to go to my likes and see what it is that we're discussing, referring to the video. Much of the complaint focuses on Cooper's statements online that Pete lied in her testimony and is falsely accusing Lanez of shooting her, as well as her statements that Pete is an alcoholic who's mentally incapacitated and may need a guardian. Like I said, and like I was saying earlier, I'm not sure about some of these. I mean, I mean, some of this stuff might just be written off as opinion, and a lot of the stuff she's kind of masking as a question, like, but you ought to be somewhere for your alleged crimes, drunkie. Why do you even speak? Like, does your liver even function well? Well, the one thing this serves, it's like, if you just take these statements by themselves, it's not that much. But when you take the whole thing, I mean, all this kind of serves to bolster the intentional infliction of emotional distress, that kind of stuff. And it's going to show the malicious intent behind promoting the altered sexual depiction. But when you have drinking seemingly running through a family, yes, I did post certain questions on my page. Yes, I did. Miss Pete comes from a family of alcoholics, because of the fact of the matter is you have a grandfather that was an alcoholic. Was your daddy on drugs, or was he in and out of the system? What was that for? Do you want to talk about that? Is stealing worse than drugs and shit? I will say, when you read through all this shit, it is just it's freaking sad. I mean, just the chronically online, like, just negativity, just blah, 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 blah. It's like, my God, people. Like, yeah, I don't know. In the rise of celebrities kind of pushing back on this stuff, I think the public is receptive to it. I mean, from what I've read about the Cardi B, Tasha K case, that was a pretty slam dunk jury trial for Cardi B. I mean, normally when you hear about, like, in actual journalism in mainstream media, defamatory cases aren't, defamation and libel cases aren't that common, because there's just standards in journalism, and you're not, I mean, as long as you're not just out maliciously lying about people, you're going to be okay. But then when you get into the social media world, it's like, yeah, I can see why this seems like a pretty slam dunk lawsuit for, defamation, libel, that kind of thing. But like I said, the statements here are definitely right now seem a little different than the statements that they were dealing with in the Tasha K, Cardi B lawsuit, and even that lawsuit that Nicki Minaj filed against Nosy Ho that settled. But who knows? The biggest one that, like I said, the case, if anything, is going to survive on that claim of promotion of an altered sexual depiction, because that's a new law that pretty specifically bans what Milagro pretty specifically admits that she did. So, but we'll see. Defendant published false and defamatory statements that stated Miss Pete was or is mentally incompetent and required a guardian. And yeah, I know some stuff I don't even want to read it out loud. But what is Megan's mental status? Does she have a guardian or not? And I don't see how saying that just on its own is defamatory. I mean, she's just asking questions. Has she been listed as a capable person? Has she ever been deemed like legally retarded? Like anything of this nature, anything of the sort? And actually, I was trying to think of a case. Where did I remember hearing an analysis of this? And the Scientology people, a couple of Danny Masterson's victims have defamation lawsuits in against some people in Scientology. And the judge had to go through a bunch of statements like this and like decide which were defamatory and which weren't. And most of them he excluded, but not all of them. Like the case survived on a few, but his analysis on this, and that's where, the alcoholic analysis. I think they actually had the alcoholic analysis in there. And he was saying, and he was the one, I was listening to this judge talk, and he was saying that while it's a clinical diagnosis, it's also just an opinion and kind of an insult that people throw around. So I wonder if if the judge here would take that same analysis. But like this, I don't think anyone would look at this on its face, this bottom quote, and be like, okay, this is defamatory. And it's all like, I think some judges might say that this on its face is just so silly that like, it's just ridiculous. Like, what is Megan's mental status? Does she have a guardian or not? Like, is she like legally retarded? Like, I'm not sure. I think people would say that it just seems like you can't take it seriously, but I don't know. Like I said, that is just one example in here of everything else. But It says Cooper's malice in defaming Miss Pete is also evident from the fact that she has admitted to spreading misinformation and falsehoods about Mr. Peterson's criminal act of gun violence against Miss Pete. The lawsuit references an October 28th statement on X in which Cooper said the gun and bullet fragments have gone missing, which a property officer with the Los Angeles Police Department says is untrue. And I do think just the fact that the reason she said that is because Tory's lawyers filed something in court saying that. So I think that just right there would kind of protect her from that. I mean, she was just repeating what was in a court document. So, but and the state attorney general's office filed a declaration in Lanez's criminal appeal on November 19th, affirming the gun and bullet fragments are in police possession. Later that day, Cooper said on social media, "From this day forward, today is November 19th, and the public has been made aware of this forum. I have to acknowledge that the gun and the bullet fragments, the magazine, and the bullet casings are with the LAPD." Pete's lawsuit seeks at least $75,000 in damages, which is the minimum in federal court. And it could be obviously a lot more than that. It's just they had to say at least 75,000 because that's the bare minimum, like I said. That includes for the altered sexual depiction claim $10,000 or actual damages, whichever is greater, as well as an award of Miss Pete's reasonable attorney fees and costs, and a permanent injunction barring defendant from any future use or publication of intimate visual depictions of her. So, like I said, that seems like the strongest claim in this whole thing. But I do think the fact that they apparently have his jail calls, I mean, there could be more to come. Like they barely reference him in here. There's a few references to his jail calls, but not a lot of, no transcripts, no quotes or anything. Like I said, if anybody out there has the jail calls and wants them to send them to me, that'd be fantastic. But so I think the next step here, now that the amended complaint has been filed, Milagro side has to file an answer to the complaint, and I would expect them to refile that dismissal motion, but have it recast to deal with the complaint. But like I said, I think the one claim that's absolutely going to survive that is the promotion of an altered sexual depiction. Because like they said, that's a new law. And if you just read the text of the law and then read what Milagro wrote, it's pretty, there's definitely some overlap there. But let's see here. Yeah, and this is the actual suit. If you guys go into legalaffairsandtrials.com, I've got it. You can read it up there on the website with everything. Yeah. Like I said, the bots, everything going on with like Jay-Z and Tony Busby and everything around the holidays. It's so much. But thank you guys for tuning in. Can Megan absolutely Megan can absolutely sue academics, and she most likely will. It seems like, I mean, if they're willing to file this suit, although like I said, what seems to really anchor this lawsuit, and I'm to the point, I'm not sure if they would have filed it if they didn't have this, is the promotion of the altered sexual depiction. So I don't know. I haven't been able to keep up with academics this year. I don't know if he's done anything like that, but if he has, I would definitely expect to see something like that. But also, I mean, just by itself, you can see how they're really trying to support the intentional infliction of emotional distress, the defamation claims. And we don't know if there could be more coming from these jail phone calls either. But it's freezing in Pennsylvania. Is it cold in Pennsylvania? I don't want to sound like a wuss, but I'm pretty sure the coldest place on earth right now might be Los Angeles. But no, I'm from the Northwest. I can handle it. Chicago. Thanks, MXXO. Good old Chi-Town. It's gotta be cold up there. This is like Drake suing all the bloggers for calling him a pedophile. You don't go after small bloggers, you go after the big ones. Meg would never sue AK because he works with the music labels. Yeah, he has a lot. He's pretty powerful for sure. Yeah, different lawsuits. I agree. If academics is sued, it would definitely be its own case. Somebody says she won't. She picked Milagro for a reason. AK even offered to pay for Milagro's legal and offered her a podcast years ago. Yeah. So again, if you guys want to read the whole complaint, it's linked in my article, legalaffairsandtrials.com. I mean, a lot of it, the Milagro's dismissal motion said that the complaint read more like a press release than a lawsuit. And I can kind of see that, but I also think that's just kind of like the day and age that we're in. I mean, read all the Diddy lawsuits. A lot of these lawsuits that you read these days are like written. You can tell they're written for the press, like trying to tell the narrative for sure. But that doesn't mean that they don't have substance to them. And like I said, when you actually look at the promotion of an altered sexual depiction, like the law that was passed in Florida, and then just what Milagro's own words were about how she promoted this altered sexual depiction of an identifiable person, it's like, okay, that claim is going to go somewhere. Unless, like I said, when I just was mentioning the law, in some circles, people were questioning how that's even constitutional. But I'd like to think the legislature thought of that, or the governor thought of that before he signed it. But thank you. That's so Ken. Megan, have you heard anything in regard to Milagro posting Meg's family records online? Thank you for all you do. We'll be getting some new merch. Thank you. Yes, the merch. I got to get that linked up here on YouTube. I have not heard anything about her posting family records online. Just in here it talks about her just talking about Megan's family, but nothing about like their addresses or anything like that. Because one thing is, I mean, addresses are generally public. Like, I've never done this before, but I'm sure if I actually put my mind to it, I could probably sit down and within a half an hour of Googling, like, identify her family members and where they live. I mean, if it's in houses in Houston, Texas, or find property records in their name. I mean, it's all generally public record. You just kind of have to know where to look. So I'm not sure if putting that out there, some of the stuff is just kind of dicey between, people just kind of talking shit about celebrities online and something being actual defamation, But yes, the merch. Thank you guys. Could it be that Megan's filing this is to bleed her dry financially? Could be. I mean, I think it's totally genuine in that, like, she is tired of being harassed by Milagro, and kind of the last straw of this seemed to be the whole the gun is missing thing. That, I mean, this was filed like the next day after all that stuff was like all over the internet, and I think it was just like they're just tired of it, and exasperated, and if one fallout of this is bleeding her dry, I'm sure they wouldn't mind, but. Money wise, I mean, if she's got Unite the People working with her for free, and then this Florida lawyer that they hired, I don't know what his story is, or what kind of business relationship he has with there. I mean, really with these lawsuits, like, there's not a ton of work that they need to do. I mean, right now, I mean, the work that her side needs to do is file a answer to the complaint, which is really like kind of a form, and then file the new dismissal motion, which they can kind of take what they already have and alter that. So, and I don't know the lawyer in Florida. I don't know his background, but I'm assuming he's probably done cases like this before. So he kind of has templates that he works with. But, right now, there's not all that much work that they need to do. But yeah, we'll see how it goes on. Yeah. Somebody says Meg has been warning her since the trial. Milagro kept going after her. Yeah. It was. It definitely seemed like a long time a long time coming. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I'm gonna go on Fox live now from Fox at 2:30 to kind of give an update on everything. But if you guys go to legalaffairsandtrials.com, and you can sign up for my Substack and get stories like this in your inbox. I want to do something else on Little Dirk because I actually have not written much on it yet, and I know there's so much interest in his case, and he should be in court here in LA sooner than later. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you to Keisha Neal and for being a member in Here Comes Drama. I can always count on you guys. And thank you. And I'm going to try to do a couple more YSL interviews too. Angela D. Williams actually reached out to me and she's like, want to do an interview? I'm like, sure. So maybe I can do that next week. And then good old Doug Weinstein, get something with him. And I'd love to get like Bruce Harvey and Keith Adams too. Brian Steele too. I don't know if he's ever done like YouTube interviews like that really, but we'll see. But yeah, so keep tuning in. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. Let everyone know that we are here, and maybe just for the new crowd, or I gotta get better at making short clips to post on my TikTok page. So maybe I can just do a rundown real quick of here's my merch page. You guys can check it out. I can do a rundown real quick of what this story is. But yeah, as you guys saw, the news is that Megan Thee Stallion's lawyers have Tory Lanez' prison phone calls, and they're using them as evidence in their lawsuit against a YouTuber, Milagro Grams, who they're saying is coordinating with Tory to continue harassing Megan. They have a claim of intentional infliction of emotional distress, and they are pointing to Milagro's relationship with Tory as a sign that she is doing all of this stuff against Megan maliciously and with the intent to harm her. And they also point to the fact that Milagro was actually in court for Megan's testimony in Tory's trial, and she heard Megan talk about the mental harm that she suffers from all this online harassment related to the case. So they're using that as another sign that to support the intentional infliction of emotional distress claim. But they don't quote the phone calls too much. They just mention the phone calls a little bit. They say that in one phone call, the Petersons, this is Tory Lanez and his father, confidently assert that Megan would be unable to prove that Tory paid Milagro to attack Megan. So Tory's camp is pointing that as, well, he said that because it's not true. They'd never be able to prove it because it's not true. But I think Megan's lawyers obviously have heard the phone calls, and I think they think something from his tone, that there's something implied in his tone that he did pay her. But we could be seeing a lot more to come with the phone calls, I think, because the idea that we don't have, the idea that that's all there is, I'm not so sure about that. But thank you all. And Secret Ninja, you have a mug. I'm so glad that you have it. And Callie Mom, thank you. And you're welcome. And Mimi, you are welcome. And I'm so glad that everyone's enjoying it. And thank you, Ken, for the love. That was so natural from the Tory Lanez trial. It was like the internet that came up with it. I don't even know who first said it. I first heard it from the Law and Crime host, Jesse Weber, but I think other people had that before. So thank you guys so much. Remember to check out the merch, and see you guys on the next live. Thank you.